Hi everybody, welcome to Bino's Garage. On today's video we're going to be showing you how to program a second key for your Honda CB650R. Now this will work across a few different Honda bikes, going back quite some way actually. It's actually a proper process that's in the instruction manual. Difference with what I'm doing is I'm going to be bodging together my own cable rather than using a genuine Honda article. So I'm going to show you how to do it for about £1 in terms of the programming, because you will have to buy a little resistor that you're unlikely to have lying around your garage. The other thing that I've had to purchase obviously is a second key, and the reason I need a second key is because I got my bike from Copart. It's a wrecked bike, category N write-off, and have a look at my other videos around that and around what we're doing to get it back on the road. But I only got one key with it, and I didn't get any other documentation, so I didn't know the key code or anything like that. So I got a second key from eBay, and I'll post the details of the seller in the video links. But the guy basically, I took a photo of my key, I sent it to him on eBay after I'd purchased the key for about £35 I think, and with that photo he can actually cut you a new key, and the key works perfectly as a key. Obviously I've got to program it now, and you'll see that video. But he also managed to tell me the actual code for my key, which is really useful for me going forwards, because I didn't have that as I didn't have any documentation. So let's get on with the video. If you like what you see, hit the thumbs up and subscribe to the channel if you want to see more videos about us fixing up the CB650R. So the cable that you need to unplug is the crank position sensor, which is the one that comes out of the engine casing at the side here, and it's plugged in rather awkwardly up in here, and if you get your fingers in you can push the top of the plug in whilst kind of pulling it out at the same time. Now you might need to use two hands. There we go. And this is a Sumitomo connector. Now you're unlikely to have one of them lying around your garage. That's the orientation it goes in, so the yellow cable is on the bottom and the yellow and white cable is on the top. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to fabricate some kind of cable to replace this. I don't want to cut this lead off because obviously I need it. I could cut it, reconnect it. I don't want to do that because that puts a weakness in the cable, so I'm going to just fudge together a little connector to push into the socket in there, which you won't be able to see, to do the same job. So you need to remove your rear seat using the key, and you need to remove the main part of the seat by undoing the two bolts. And then what you need to do is, look, you've got a negative terminal and a positive terminal on your battery, and that's the two that you're going to need to connect to with your crocodile clips. Okay, so let me just talk you through the cable that I've made out of bits lying around. I used the wiring harness from an old stereo, and I took a couple of the pins out, which are like little clampy pins there in the end there, and I've spaced them apart to be the same distance apart as the pins that require in the plug, as you'll see there. They clamp quite nicely onto the pins. I've put a little cocktail stick there so I can actually push it up, because it's quite in the middle of the engine there. And I've just put some tape round and some heat shrink round them so they don't touch each other, so we don't short out. So we have the yellow cable which goes at the bottom, the white cable which goes at the top. And what you'll see is I've connected that up. What we've got here is a resistor. Now I'll put the specs of that resistor in the text. But basically, I ordered some of these off eBay. They cost me about £1 for 10 posted, so they're really cheap. I have no use for these 9 now, so they can just go in my box of electrical rubbish. I've used crimp connectors here. I could have soldered it to the two lines, but I've used crimp connectors just to show you can really do it easily without having to solder anything. Crimp connector on that side as well. On the 12 volt positive line, we've got an inline fuse, just for safety really, and a crocodile clip that I happen to have lying around. You don't need to have a crocodile clip. You could use a different kind of connector to connect it to the battery. It's just easier because you do need to release it from the battery for a bit of time. So we have a similar crocodile clip on the negative. On the negative you definitely don't need a crocodile clip because you can actually just loosen off the bolt and connect it properly, because you don't need the ability to remove the negative during the process. You do need the ability to remove the positive for 5 seconds. Okay, so I'm all plugged in. I've got my red cable which goes to the yellow part of the plug, which is the bottom pin, plugged into 12 volt positive with the inline fuse and with the inline resistor. And I've got the negative plugged into the white lead there, which is the white and yellow lead, which is the top of the plug. Okay, so I've got my makeshift plug inserted. I've got the yellow cable at the bottom, the white cable at the top. So live is going into the bottom and the yellow cable, negative on the white cable there at the top. On my positive 12 volt supply I've got my inline resistor, I've got my fuse, and I've got it hooked up to the battery there, and the negative is hooked up to the negative side of the battery. So we are all plugged in. My working key is there, plugged in, and what should happen when we turn the key is that we should get the HISS light should stay on, and we shouldn't hear the fuel pump prime. Excellent, so no fuel pump priming and the HISS light has stayed on. So now what we need to do is we need to remove the positive power supply for 5 seconds. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And the HISS light should flash, which it isn't. Let's try that again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Still no flashing. Let's try for a little bit longer. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, so I've just done it for about the 5th time, and it's actually worked this time. You can see there the HISS is flashing 4 times. There we go. So that is the regular key in there, and that is programmed. So what I now need to do is remove that and insert my new key, and that will program that one. So let's have a look. One, 2, 3, 4. There we go. New key is programmed. So let's take that one out. So I now should have a working spare. Let's disconnect these bits and bobs. There we go. We'll pull out our makeshift plug. There we go. Plug back in our crank position sensor so that we can test it. Over there, it's a bit fiddly getting this one back in. That's on. Now for the moment of truth. Will my cheap £35 key start my bike? Fuel pump's primed. Awesome. Working key. Excellent stuff. Let's just check the old one, make sure that still works. Perfect. 2 working keys.